So I almost felt like one summer, which was 2 summers ago now, it just exploded and everything happened at the same time. And I went from really scrapping hard for things to having these most incredible roles in front of me that I did not feel good enough to handle.
You are one of the hardest working people I know. So you work for Sky Sports, TalkSport, breakfast show, of course. You do the Super 6 podcast. How on earth do you find time for it all?
Do you know what? I'm winging it. I'm sort of winging it day by day. I'm trying my best to find a little bit of balance because to be honest, it's probably a bit too much. But the thing is, I've had this work ethos always. So I see it as I'll never be good enough at my job, in my own opinion. I'll always want to be better at it. And I'll set those standards myself. You know, I don't look around too much because I know what I need to do that's better. So I try not to kind of compare too much to other people because I don't know if that's a healthy way of looking at things. You don't want to look at someone else and go, I want to be like that. You want to look in the mirror and go, I want to be a better version of you. I want to be the best version I can be. And I want to be as good at my job as I can be. I don't think it ever works modeling yourself on anybody else. And I've learned that over time. So my kind of, my drive at work has always been the more work I have, the more experience I'll get. So it's almost like if you're learning to drive a car, you're clocking up the hours, aren't you? So the longer you're in that car and driving around, the quicker you'll master it. So I've always had that in my mind about any job I've done at Sky from the very beginning, if that be running, assistant producing, reporting or presenting, all the way up the ladder. And I still have that in my head. So it's only really this season that I've gone, you should slow down a little bit because this isn't necessarily a learning, they will always be learning exercises, but you kind of have to also value the time off because otherwise when you're working at a job where my alarm goes off at 10 to 4, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday morning, you have to rest and you have to eat right, drink lots of water and exercise. And if you're not getting all of those things done, then you will fall off the cliff pretty quickly. And, you know, as well, like, you know, just as well as I do in football, it's a living thing, you know, it's evolving every day. And if you miss a little bit of news, you're out of date. And my life for the last 5 years especially has been solely focused on football. So whereas back in the day I was like all over darts because that was my job, and I used to flip from sport to sport at Sky before we started specializing in football. And I have such a hunger for it that I don't want to miss a thing, you know. I want to always be on the ball. I want to always know what's going on. So I find it hard to switch off, but the great thing about it is I don't really want to. So even when I'm like chilling out, you know, but I've thought about this the other day. I was like, on my social media feed, even though I'm just flicking through social media, I'm actually working because everyone I follow is all about football. And actually that's what I'm into. So it's kind of two birds with one stone. So yeah, really, I mean, this season I'm trying to find that balance. So I'm trying to say no to things and almost turn that switch off where everything's like, yeah, I'll do it. Yeah. And I'll learn from it all.
So you mentioned there about how you started working for Sky as a runner. That's not something I did. So I was wondering if you could give both myself and the listeners a bit of an insight into what that's like.
Am I allowed to call you Billy Big Bollocks for coming straight in? And yeah. I remember when you came in.
Don't worry, Smithy does.
We were like, hang on a minute, I'm sorry, you haven't come in through the bottom up.
Yeah.
Because yours was an internship, and then they were like, get him in. He's like the brain.
Not exactly, but yeah.
It's sort of along those lines. I remember that so clearly. Because how old were you when you got that job?
I started working at Sky when I was 18, and then started working for this Soccer AM digital stuff when I was 19. So yeah.
Did I meet you when you were 19?
Yeah.
How old are you now?
25.
When did you turn 25?
I know.
Do you know what? That gives me so many different emotions. So many emotions that I knew you when you were 19. but also so many emotions that it's like, that's gone so quickly, and you're like 25. That's just madness.
Scary,
Anyway,
isn't it?
it really is. Oh my God. So I started at Sky when I was 21 and I was a runner. So I'd just come back from traveling. I'd done a little bit of work experience and I was like obsessed. I knew as soon as I walked in the door, literally, like I went to the coffee machine to make coffees and I was just like, this is the best coffee machine I've ever seen. You know,
Yeah.
everything. I was like, these cups are amazing. Everything about Sky was like incredible to me. So I knew I'd done work experience and like newspapers and other places, and I was like, this isn't my life. This isn't how I want to work. I'm not obsessed with it. And I have that character. If I have to be obsessed with something to be interested, it's one end of the spectrum, not interested, obsessed. And that's always where I am over here. So I walked in and I was like, this is the best thing I've ever seen. I want to work here. I have to work here. Then I went off traveling. Then I was emailing constantly while I was traveling. I was like, I've got to get back in. No reply. And I was devastated. So I was just like, how much is too much? Do you know what I mean? How many emails is too many emails? And I didn't want to upset anyone, but at the same time, I was like, I have to get in. When I came back, no reply to the email. So I got the number of the switchboard. And the woman was like, do you work at Sky? And I went, no, but I want to. And she cut me off. And I was like, oh, hang on a minute. And now I know that's just security protocol. If you say you don't work at Sky, they think that you're like telecommunications or something like that. And they'll be like, well, unless you want to get put through to someone directly and you have a sort of appointment, you won't get through. So anyway, this was like a dagger to my heart for about 2 weeks. And it really knocked me because I was like, oh, my life at Sky, as I've imagined it for the last 6 months while I'm traveling, is not going to happen. And I refused to let that happen. I was like, I'll find another way in. So I emailed, and then eventually I got an email back from this woman. And she was like, I'm really sorry, I don't work in this department anymore. It's this person. So then I started bugging her. And then eventually I called her as well. This time I got through. And I was like, I just want to make teas. I was like, just let me in. I was like, let me come in for a week. They put me on what we call the pub sports team. And the rest is history. I got a job as a runner off the back of it. I was there for 2 weeks, work experience. They liked me. I guess I asked the right questions and made the right impression on people. I made as many friends as I could. I went and met everyone and introduced them and made sure I got to know them, knew all their names. And I think it got me in. And then I worked my way up. I learned how to produce. I learned how to edit, not very well, but enough to get me by. I learned how to direct on shoots, but I wanted to interview. So I was always trying to do the interviews behind the scenes. And then gradually I jumped from one team to the next with the mind of moving into reporting. And little by little, they gave me opportunities. But really, I started doing like a YouTube series on my own with darts players, interviewing darts players. And I cut it, put it out on the YouTube channel for Sky. And I think that really got me a lot of confidence. And then eventually, through other little roles, I got an audition for Soccer AM online. And it was a dreadful audition, I have to be honest. I remember
it was the ball in the cup, wasn't it?
Oh, it was.
It's the YouTube ball in the cup thing?
That was my application.
Okay.
Dog pong. Oh my God.
Pong.
Dog pong. You have to cut to dog pong here.
Yep.
Hello, I'm Laura Woods, and this is my Whistle Sports application video. Just enough time to teach you a new sport, dog pong. Oh my God, it's so hot in here. First thing you're gonna need, a cup. You're gonna need a few ping pong balls. Most importantly, you're gonna need a dog. Like any good sport, there's rules to abide by. And with dog pong, I made up a couple. The cup must be secured to the dog. The ball must go into the cup. The dog must be a willing participant. The dog owner, he's got to be on board. Can't just take a dog.
And you're going to need a willing opponent.
Oh!
So, there you have it. Dog pong. At least a variation of it. My gift to you. It's going to be huge.
Yep.
Oh my God. I always remember somebody commented on that video saying, yeah, it's really funny, but that's actually really cruel for the dog. And I was like, delete, block, get out.
Yeah.
That's my sister-in-law's dog, and she was fine. Her name's Maggie, and she's still alive to this day.
Lovely dog as well.
Yeah, she's a lovely dog. I remember that. I was looking at other YouTube people and what the sort of stuff they do. And I was like, oh, I don't want to do any of that. And then I have no idea where it came from. Honestly, genuinely, it just came out of nowhere, that idea. And I was like, sod it, it's going to be completely left of field, but it worked. And I always remember them saying that it stood out, that application video stood out for whatever reason. It just did.
Just completely different from the rest.
Yeah. And then I got my audition, and I always remember Shane did the audition, right? And it was so weird because it was like, he was like, pretend you're interviewing someone. It's just been the North London derby. I think he said Spurs had beaten Arsenal, and he was like, nobody knows that you're an Arsenal fan. You've got to go and interview Spurs fans and be neutral. And I was like, oh, okay. But I also remember the camera looking at me here, and he was like, pretend that you're interviewing the camera. I was like, what? So I was like, so like, tell me how you feel, and said like all this sort of crap to the camera. And it was so awkward. And I was like, Shane, why? But I just went with it because I was like, this is an audition. Of course. So I can't do anything about that. I remember Scotty was in the audition as well. I had to interview Alex Scott. And then both of us got jobs. And then, we cracked on and we started. We were the presenters along with Adam Smithy. We were the presenters of Soccer M's new YouTube channel.
And look how well you are all doing now. Absolutely smashing it.
Funny, isn't it? What a breeding ground. That audition process. They know who to pick, don't they?
Yeah.
God, those days. I miss it.
Yeah, me too. You spoke about your mentality to say yes to work, because I was going to touch on that. So you did bowling, I remember, darts, NFL, game changers. Was that your aim, just to say yes and pick up as much experience as you could?
Yeah. I always remember, because it was like, you never really know. I couldn't get a break on anything. It wasn't easy for me. Some people are in the right place at the right time. I was, I suppose, for the work experience element of that, but everything else was hard at Sky. Everything else I found difficult. I always remember the attitude towards young women that want to be presenters. The general attitude around Sky was, oh yeah, you want to be a presenter, so does everyone else. And I always remember being like, well, someone's got to do it, haven't they? And I actually, I do want to do it. And I've been to uni, I've done journalism. I'm doing everything else I can to find my voice in this place. So why not? Why not me? And I always remember one of my colleagues suggested to me not to tell anyone I want to be a presenter, because it means that I wouldn't take the job seriously that I was doing then and there. And I was like, well, that's bollocks. And it kept me quiet for about a week. And I remember thinking that I don't want to take that advice. I'm not going to take that advice. So what it meant was, when I did get any opportunity, it felt like gold dust. I was like, oh my God, and I took it all as seriously as, I remember doing 10-pin bowling, and it was like the Champions League final. Yeah. For me, it was like, oh my God, I was only reporting, wasn't presenting. I would research it for days. I'd make sure I knew everything about it. I did snooker, pool, the Moscone Cup.
Yes, that was of course, yeah.
That was amazing. I did obviously darts, which I was just in love with, obsessed with. Did a little bit of tennis. I honestly picked up anything and everything. NFL, loved it. Carved myself this sort of fancy NFL show as well, fancy football. And I just felt like that's how I knew I wanted to do it, because I got a buzz from it, a massive buzz that I didn't get from anything else. So producing didn't give me that buzz. And I just never really felt like it would have been enough for me. I was always like, well, what's next? And then I realized the reason I was thinking that is because it wasn't what I wanted to do. So anything I could do reporting or presenting or in front of the camera gave me this real thrill, this real excitement. And also I was so bad when I started. I was so bad. I can't watch stuff back because I'm like, oh. And I knew it at the time as well, because you can tell when it's not your voice, can't you?
Yeah.
Something is that you're like, who's that?
I'm even finding that now. I'm talking to you and I'm like, I wouldn't talk like this if I was talking to you.
Why am I being so eloquent? It's really strange, isn't it? I always remember Gary Neville saying that the first time we did Monday night. No, it was the first time we did commentary, actually, co-coms. And the way he was speaking, he always credits this producer that used to work at Sky, called Scott Melvin.
Yeah.
And Scott Melvin was like, why are you talking like that? And he went, well, I'm being professional and I'm commentating and like, being really decisive with all the letters and all the words and stuff like that. I'm sounding quite posh. He went, yeah, that's not how you speak. That's not what you would say in a normal conversation. Just use your own language, your own voice, and just be natural and normal. And as soon as he started doing that, he just, he just became like a cut above the rest. And I think the best that we've got. And I always remember seeing that and hearing about that. And my thing is finding your own voice. So when we went to France and covered the Euros, we had a contract with Facebook, didn't we? We had to do a 10-minute live Facebook every day. And some days there was loads to talk about when we were in the group stages and there were games, loads of games happening all the time. Then as it got to the knockout stages, we'd have like a period of days where there was no football. So, but we still had to use content. And I remember being in a car park, between Paris and Bordeaux, for example, driving from one place to the next with nothing to talk about, no scenery, having to commit to this contract and having to do a 10-minute Facebook Live. And you didn't have time to prepare. So it wasn't like, and there was no point preparing because there's nothing really to say. We would just go, should we just do it here? And we'd be like, yeah, let's do it. And that was genuinely my breakthrough of where my natural voice came out. I suddenly found a style of presenting which I felt relaxed with. And that was when my natural voice came out. So I'll always credit that time because you don't have time to think about it. I remember we were just sitting in the garden one morning and we were all quite hungover actually. We did a Messi Ronaldo debate. It was the Euros. Messi wasn't even in it. Do you know what I mean? We were like, we'll talk about Ronaldo because I don't think he was ever in a very good tournament, was he? Because I swear to God, Portugal hadn't scored.
I think they drew every game or something.
Yeah. And it was always like group stage. I think there were draws and then it was like force it to extra time. It was one penalties. I swear one went to penalties as well.
I don't think they won a game in regular time until the final.
That was it, wasn't it?
Yeah, that might be wrong, but
it was almost like they'd sort of dragged themselves to the final being really boring, and we were like, oh, this is crap, whatever. And then anyway, we were reading comments, weren't we? Facebook Live comments. That was the first time we were sort of integrating with people like that. So you couldn't really filter them; everyone could see them. And someone had mentioned something about Messi, and it just became a Messi Ronaldo debate. And we just got so many views, didn't we? And we were like, wow, this has gone mad. And I remember thinking 90,000 at the time was a lot.
Yeah.
I think it got 90,000 views or something. And we were like, we're tapping into something here. Well, it's discussion, it's conversation. And at the time I forgot about trying to present, and I just presented. And that's what you have to do. You have to forget. Again, going back to the car analogy, when you learn to drive, first of all, you go, right, clutch, gear, gas, brakes, handbrake, and do you know what I mean? Like,
there's so many components.
And then when you learn to drive, you forget that process and you do it naturally. And that's what presenting is as well.
Amazing. So do you set targets for yourself? Because obviously, I'd say in the last couple of years, you've really taken off. Your career's really hit new heights. Or do you just tend to work as hard as you can and see where that takes you?
Yeah, I do that. I keep seeing everywhere that we should set targets and we should do 5-year plans and 1-year plans and all this sort of stuff. I couldn't really tell you. There's not that many roles in presenting, not in sports presenting anyway, and not in football. So, if someone said to me, set yourself a 5-year plan, I go, well, okay, I want to present Super Sunday, for example. Well, there's a presenter on Super Sunday. So you can work as hard as you can, but that presenter is really good and he's not going anywhere. So you might get to the end of that 5 years and he's still in his prime and he's still as good, if not probably better. But that doesn't mean that you failed. You are a better presenter too in 5 years' time. It's just you haven't got that one job. So I find 5-year plans really difficult. Also, if I started working at TalkSport because I had a show taken away from me at Sky. So we used to do that Carling Off the Bar show. It was a pub show and it was live and it was amazing. And it was the first live TV I'd ever done. And I loved it. And we were called into the boss's office, me and Smithy, and we were told that we wouldn't be doing it anymore and the job was going to Max Rushton. And it really rocked us and it knocked our confidence. And we were like, wow, is there anything else that we can do? And there wasn't anything else we could do. So at the time I remember going home and being upset about it, but I don't cry about stuff. I get angry, and when I get angry, it makes me kind of go, well, what else can I do? So then I remember being like, okay, there's no options immediately at Sky, so that's TV scratched off. I was already doing bits and bobs outside of TV, that outside of Sky on TV, like pre-recorded things for golf. That's another thing I've done. I've done golf.
Done everything.
For, you know, outside channels that basically you do it for them and then they sell it back to Sky. So technically it's still on Sky. And I have always listened to radio and always loved radio. And I remember thinking radio would be a great breeding ground to basically improve. So I said to Sky, can I go and audition with TalkSport? And there was openings and stuff. And they were like, yeah. Like, it's fine, go and do it. Do whatever you want. So then I started auditioning and I got the job reviewing the breakfast papers on the breakfast show with Alan Brazil, which was like a dream job to work alongside him because he's just incredible. And he's been my hero for as long as I can remember listening to TalkSport, which might just be at the beginning when my dad started listening. So 20 odd years ago. My dad's hero as well. Everyone in my family listens to it. So it was a real moment. And I got that role, literally half an hour reviewing the papers in out early in the morning from 7 till 7:30, 1 day a week. It was amazing. And then that became 2 days a week. Then it became more sections. Then it became 4 days a week. And then that role really started to snowball. So I remember I remember walking into Sky and people going, oh, I listened to you this morning on TalkSport. And I was like, wow, that's amazing. Thanks very much. Then they gave me a co-host job on Friday nights at TalkSport. And then in my second season, they gave me the 5:30 kickoff live on my own. We would travel to a ground every week. It was like mad busy, but it was amazing. And I was hosting live football and I just couldn't believe what was happening. At the same time, Sky then were giving me more opportunities to report. So going and interviewing Premier League players, that was going out on Super Sunday every week. That then developed into a pitch side role as well. So I almost felt like one summer, which was 2 summers ago now, it just exploded and everything happened at the same time. And I went from really scrapping hard for things to having these most incredible roles in front of me that I did not feel good enough to handle. And so I had to learn on the job really quick. So then, yeah, really, I don't remember ever feeling good enough to pick those out to say, I want that role. I was like, well, I'll never get that role, so I won't even try. Do you know what I mean? And then it just ended up that way. And then obviously TalkSport then developed into the breakfast show, which I was just knocked my head off, really.
Yeah.
It still does.
I think that's the best way to be, to be honest. Just work really hard, be really good at what you do, and eventually the results will come.
Yeah. And you can now knock. I've made a career of knocking on doors. It's just that I just didn't know which ones I was necessarily going to end up knocking on, if that makes sense. Like when I was younger, I'd knock on every door possible. Now, obviously, that I have these incredible roles, my focus is to be as good at them as I physically can. So it doesn't really end, if I'm honest. Like for me, it doesn't end. I think it's relentless, and I think that's kind of, in a way, I think that's how I like it.